folks. Welcome back to another episode of the BBC, the BoomBastiCAST. Doing it wild, doing it big, doing it nice. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 2024 best of episode. It's a glorious day. The sun's shining bright. Frank's back there staring, watching on, and just complete awe and utter awe. Um, Doing it big, doing it big. Alexander, how you doing over there, brother?
I'm doing good. I mean, it's always great going back and looking at some of the guests we've had on prior seasons, prior shows. Um, I mean, we're already working hard to get people for our 2026 season.
Nice.
Um, we had a great run of people this year in 2025, but today we are going to go back in time to 2024.
Ooh, a long time ago.
Heck yeah.
No, not that. We'll be in the time machine for just a few moments and we'll be back there. You ready? Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to 2024, doing it big style. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yesterday, moving and grooving. Yesterday we were at the Collectibles Extravaganza in Bucksboro, Massachusetts. A lot of fun. We were there with the folks from That Figures podcast. I'm rocking the t-shirt. A new show to the network, the good old Boombastic Media Network. If you like collectibles of toys, action figures, comics, you whatever, anything that people collect, you know, pop culture, non-pop culture. We know the great, Troy Devolve back on the show collected the late great, rest in peace, collected TV remotes from different generations. Unfortunately, he passed. He would have been a great person to send their way for a guest, 'cause I think they're looking to have guests that collect everything and anything you can think of. But yesterday was a lot of fun. Great, the Gary Somer over there, killing it, dude. Always a pleasure working with him. And later this month, in a couple of weeks, I think, yeah, from the time you guys are watching this now, we're going to be at the Northeast Comic Con doing it big, roaming around, promoting what we does. If you see, I guess, That Figures podcast, Boombastic tees, BoomBastiCAST tees, perhaps, whatever you see us pop in and say hey, and we'll have something nice for you. We'll divvy it up. It'll be a beautiful world for everybody to live in. The convention's a great convention, you know what I mean? Reasonably priced, which is always beautiful. A lot of really cool stuff. There's a lot of cool vendors yesterday. Got a lot of comic books. It was nice. Alex got a nice Roger Rabbit figure. Shout out Gary K. Wolf. Much love. First
And
guest on the BoomBastiCast ever. Yes, sir.
yeah, and also I got thing I have to admit I've always kind of had a soft spot for and never got was an elf doll. I've always wanted an from the classic Elf series. Found one. So Roger Rabbit and Elf together in my house now.
He's such a good man that he even got his pops a little something something.
Yep, yeah, got my dad because I mean, growing up, big Indiana Jones fans, but our favorite will always be the Last Crusade because my dad and I love doing the lines back and forth. I found an action figure of um, Indiana Jones' father, Henry Jones Sr., the late great Sean Connery. Very well done. I was able to get that. I got that from my father as a nice little, a nod to him.
You're a good son, like Macaulay Culkin, you know what I mean? That's you. Hope all is well over there with the family and everybody listening. And with that being said, since we step back into the future a year, let's get kicking on our best of 2024. First up, ladies and gentlemen, and what are we talking about? Dogs? What were we woofing? What are we barking on this episode with Debra Wilson?
Yes,
Remember
yes,
that? Yeah. Ho,
yes,
ho,
yes,
ho,
yes.
ho.
Hoo,
Yeah.
hoo, hoo. Yeah.
Deborah Wilson from a whole bunch of things, whole bunch of really cool things. Most notably for me, of course, Mad TV. I remember being a youngster just growing up, rocking that thing, loving it. I think every Saturday night we got down with that. Very cool stuff. And it was a pleasure to have her on. The Hawkman caught her, reeled her in. She's due for another episode. Just like Gary brought up Gary, we got to get Gary back on. We haven't had him on. He was a part of, I think, our Christmas episode 2 years ago. But he's always I think he has a new book, so maybe we're gonna have to reach out and catch the man. But
Yeah.
Debra Wilson, I was surprised that Hawkman reeled her in. You know what I mean? Great catch. Very cool person, high energy, spiritual person. You know what I mean? Had a good head on her shoulders. Um, we got to dive into one of my favorite things, which is the paranormal. You know what I mean? I always like when there's another show called Mostly Ghostly on the network. I always like to see these things mash up, creative and the paranormal, and you know, it's just a fun chat. You know what I mean? What do you think? What do you think about the paranormal talk?
Well, I mean, it was good. I mean, as we've probably talked plenty of times on this show and other shows, um, I I'm open to the possibility, but I've never experienced any paranormal experiences. And to be perfectly honest, I like to keep it that way. I think the world is scary enough without adding the supernatural to it. But what I loved about this show was I remember when I reached out to Debra Wilson. One of the first things he said was, I wanted to talk about something other than just my career. I wanted to, because you can go on a million different podcasts and you can see that. I mean, I have a lot of interest. And she gave me a whole list. And one of them, of course, was the paranormal, doing ghost walks and that kind of stuff. And of course, knowing my pal with also Mr. Great Ray Booten with mostly ghostly, I thought that was a very good aspect to delve into. So that's what we did. We ended up talking to her about her experiences working with ghost hunters and her trying to, be more in tune with the other side and kind of be more on a spiritual level, which is always interesting. Like I've always said, that when we get a chance to go down the rabbit hole and learn something that we did not know about the person is the most interesting. That's what we try to do in the show. And had a lot of fun doing that.
Yeah, she was a blast. Can't wait to have her back. I know that she was down. I think at the end of the episode we talked about bringing her back, and she was down. So it's just a matter of doing it up. I know she's super busy, so we give them a little time, and then right before they leave the taste buds, another second helping coming your way. You know what I mean? So with that, I guess foodly, foodly way of introducing this little clip it. Ladies and gentlemen, let's check out some of the best of 2024 with our interview with the great Debra Wilson. I know that you're into the paranormal, which we are too.
I'm going to Paracon. I'll be in San Antonio, Texas at Paracon on the 26th and the 27th of January, Friday and Saturday, 26th and 27th of January, Paracon in San Antonio, Texas. Woo! But I also have friends that are paranormal investigators that had a series. And so I was fans of theirs. And then someone introduced me and I became friends of theirs. And now we're like family. And so I'm going to support them and I'm going to be with them and I'm hang out with them. And on my 60th birthday, I told them I was going to, and they are Brad and Barry Kling of Ghost Lab fame. Ghost Lab used to be on Discovery Network. Yeah. And it was an amazing show. And so they still do podcasts and they are still active in the paranormal world because they get hired individually as well. And so on my 60th, I said, the one thing I want to do for my 60th birthday is I'm going to go Gettysburg. I'm going to explore Gettysburg because I know it's a very haunted location. And they have done a number of explorations and investigations at Gettysburg, as well as around the entire country. But they have a very huge love of Gettysburg and a fascination because they've had family members that they have traced back who were a part of the Civil War on the side of the South, on the side of the Confederacy, because they're from Texas. And they said, you're not going without us. We'll meet you there and we're going to take you here and we're going to do this. And they knew so many people in the town and they knew so many people because of all the investigations that they were letting us in at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, just opening them up for Barry and Brad Kling. And I was like, wow, they have pull in Gettysburg itself, because it's a very small town.
Yeah.
You know, so when people think of Gettysburg, they think it must be the largest skirmish that happened. And it was one of many. And it wasn't the end of the Civil War when it happened. So, and all of those battles took place on farmers' fields. You know, but they took me, and it was wonderful. And I did an investigation with them in Texas years and years prior to that. And now I'm back with Paracon. And when I did a voiceover convention and I was a keynote speaker in in Dallas, they drove from San Antonio all the way to Dallas. And it was amazing to be able to see them. So yeah, I've gone from major fan to a friend and friend to family member. So it's just really amazing. So big shout out to Brad and Barry Kling of Ghost Lab fames.
Hell yeah, much love. You know,
man.
The paranormal is definitely one of those things that I love it, and it's so fun that certain people would just be so against it and certain people be so for it. Did you ever stumble into like an apparition or a ghost or anything like that in your?
Yeah, but not in Gettysburg. They did. At one point, they were listening back to some of the stuff that we recorded.
Yeah.
And then they were like, you know, we're gonna go, and it was a little store that was like it was almost like a 7-Eleven to a certain extent, stayed open all the time. And they were like, it was 2:00 in the morning. Everybody was getting tired. And they said, listen, we're going to go to this little store. You want to come? And I was like, nah, I'm going to rest because I knew we were leaving the next day. Damn it. I should have gone, because as they were coming back from the store, they stopped at a light. There was one young man on one corner and another person on the other corner. The young man had a phone, headphones, earbuds, whatever. He was on his phone. And Gettysburg is such a small town that obviously nobody was out there. You know, because all the tourists were gone. Everybody who lives there is in bed asleep. So nobody was out there. And so the other guy on the side of the street was waiting for the light to turn so that he can cross. And he had on this big hat, big beard, and a long duster, like you would wear if you were a cowboy.
Yeah. And
when the light changed and they started walking, the kid with the phone, or the young man with the phone, didn't look up. And Barry and Brad were watching the scene take place and go like, dude, look up. Don't you see this guy coming at you? And the kid never looked up, or the young man never looked up, and they just crossed like this. But the kid never looked up at all.
Yeah.
That's unusual. Human nature says, oh, I feel somebody coming at me. Let me look up. Oh, let me make sure I'm not in anybody's way. You have a peripheral vision. Even though it's late night, you're aware, oh shit, there's only one other person there. Kid never looked up. So as Brad and Barry were watching the guy cross the street, like, oh shit, this guy was moving fast too. I'm surprised he didn't knock him over. They watched him. By the time he hit the sidewalk, he vanished. He disappeared. He dissipated.
Jeez.
And they came back and told me, I was like, damn it.
Yeah. I think with paranormal, I think it's like if you're looking for it, if you're like going to a hot spot and you're looking for it, they don't want to show themselves. It's when like you least expect it type deal.
Yeah. Yep. That's in my experience. That's been in my experience. Or I've had plenty of empathic experiences, but never full blown. And part of me wants to go like, do you think you could handle a full blown apparition, Debra? And I'm like, fuck yeah.
Oh yeah.
And the other part of me is like, Debra, can you handle a full blown apparition? Fuck no.
Welcome on back, folks. Welcome on back. That was again, great conversation with her. I'd like to say, if you like any of these clips, go seek out the full interview. I'm a little biased, but I don't think we've ever had a lame, boring interview yet. I think everyone is definitely worth diving into, and a lot of fun. You know what I'm saying?
Heck yeah.
So next up, the great Susan Lanier from The Hills Have Eyes, and just all around cool, fucking awesome person. You know what I mean? It was great to have her on the show. This time we dove a little bit into the horror world, as we like to do. Myself, a lifelong horror fan. We got to talk a little bit about the late great Wes Craven, legendary dude. Psychological horror. I mean, I don't know if anybody's ever done it better. You know what I'm saying? And her, working on Hills Have Eyes, crazy flick. Talking a little bit about her friendship with Michael Berryman was a lot of fun too. Um, I know I get down with that. Michael Berryman's a dude we've been talking to for a little bit. You know, when the time is right, he's gonna pop on the cast and do it wild. But Alex, what'd you think of the Susan episode here?
Oh, I had a lot of fun. I mean, it was great. I mean, we of course delved heavy into Hills Have Eyes, but we also delved into her experience, for example, on a lot of TV shows. One of them being Three's Company. She was one of three people that ended up, taking a brief time as Suzanne Summers' role, of course, in the
Let's see.
and
Yeah.
Suzanne ended up getting it. It was interesting because she was talking about how she was literally at the gas station during Hills Have Eyes, sand in the hair, when her manager called her and says, "Hey, we got this great opportunity for you," and she had to rush from that set to down there to audition for it. And one of the funny things that we ended up talking about was that she didn't really gel with John Ritter, but she did end up becoming very long lasting friends with his then wife at the time. So that was an interesting little thing there. And as you'll see in this clip, she'll talk about her great relationship with Michael Berryman. I luckily had the opportunity to work with him last year. We shot a film in Hungary called Ever After, and I got to work with him. So that was a great experience, and this was a great interview.
Were you guys father and son or just friends? What was the deal with that?
What
And ever after.
yeah, in Ever After, he is kind of a guide, a hunter guide, and he's bringing myself and another guy, and we're friends, and we're going out on a hunting trip out in the woods in Hungary. And, there's a brief little conversation back and forth where he tells us not to get too wild and get drunk because one person got drunk before and ended up taking home a rabid fox.
Woo! And everybody live happily ever after, you know? So
Almost.
almost. Well, with that being said, so ladies and gentlemen, let's pop into a little clip with Susan Lanier on the BoomBastiCAST. So you ran over from the set of The Hills Have Eyes?
No, I had just finished shooting a retake in the Hills Have Eyes in the desert.
Yeah.
We shot at Victorville, California. And so I hadn't been home in a while. And so yeah, I still had sand in my hair when I was at the grocery store trying to pick up some groceries before I go home. And then it was like, no, I had to leave the bag, the basket of groceries and go to ABC.
No, that movie is incredible. It's an incredible masterpiece of a horror film. The young Wes Craven, that and his previous film before that, Last House on the Left. Both of those movies are like the height of psychological horror. You watch them and you're just like horrified. Love them both.
I think they do still hold up.
Oh, yeah.
I think The Hills Have Eyes does at any rate. And I'm biased, I'm sure, but me and my husband at the time, he's now passed away, but we went to the premiere of the remake, and I'm still friends with Peter Locke, who produced it. Peter Locke had a birthday party a few months ago, and I was there, and we had such a wonderful visit. But I didn't feel that the remake was as raw and honest as the original, but I'm biased.
I agree. I like the original more. I don't hate on the reboot's pretty good, I think, for as far as reboots we were getting at the time, for sure.
Yeah.
The original all day long, for sure. Now, coming into that, do you remember meeting Wes for the first time? Did he have have buzz from Last House, or was it still kind of like, pretty much, just Wes? You know what I mean?
He was shy,
yeah,
and sort of intimidated by the fact that I was kind of known at the time. are doing a lot of work at the time, and the casting director had pitched me Carol Propp and Gus Schermer. And so it was never really an audition. It was more like a meeting and a little bit of improv, I guess, with Wes. And I pretty much was offered the role there. He was very shy and quiet, and but knew what he wanted, and one of my favorite directors ever. He was so wonderful to work with. I never heard him raise his voice. I've worked with directors that are really frightening because they'll scream on the set and whatever. Wes was always a gentleman. He was so sweet. And yet got exactly what he wanted. People wanted to work hard for Wes, and our conditions were not exactly fabulous. It wasn't first class by any means. I mean, we had these primitive trailers out in the desert, and all they had out there were like Motel 6 or whatever, maybe La Quinta or something, you know, and so it was but it was so much fun. I wouldn't trade it for $1 million.
And it gets really cold in the desert. People don't think it does because it's so hot during the day. But once the sun goes down, it gets pretty chilly out there.
Yeah. It's cold in LA right now, but and people don't think of LA as being cold, but you know, it's pretty cold. The desert was freezing, and then in the daytime it was hot. Whatever month, I can't remember the months we shot it now. Maybe it might have been February, March, somewhere in there, but it wasn't horrible, you know. But it was, you know, in the desert's not too hot in certain months.
Yeah.
Not in Victorville.
I know you became very friendly with Michael Berryman. Of course, you guys are very close to the movie. Very intense scenes with you guys in the movie, of course. That brings people together, I think, closer when the two performers have to get kind of in the nitty gritty like that, you know what I mean?
Yes, I love Michael Berryman. I mean, I haven't talked to him in a while, and I miss him. I needed to call him and check up on him. He's moved a couple of times. He was living right around the corner from me, and we saw each other for the holidays. We'd hang out for the holidays and everything. And then he moved to Florida, and that got too hot. And I think he might be in Michigan. I'm not sure. He may be near you. And you know, you're in Massachusetts, but Michigan. And I think he moved to Michigan, but I have to check.
Yeah.
But he I don't see him like we did when he was my neighbor. Dee Wallace is my neighbor, and I talked to Janice today. So
hell yeah. The movie is so like it goes to the heights of like intensity and like insanity in certain moments. It's like because Wes went to school, I think, to be like a psychology teacher or something like that. So like he knew, like he tapped right into that your loved one getting hurt type deal heavily. And did you have any reservations or anything when you first read the script? It's fun that I've always heard he's a shy guy and these crazy things come from his mind. But did you ever have any reservations when you read the script?
You know, back then, I hate to admit this.
Yeah.
Then you get a script and you go, "Where's Brenda?" And
Yeah.
you know, and you might overlook a few things like
Right.
some of the action that they have written down. I certainly did that back then. Now I pay a lot more attention to the action of the film, but you know, doing the dad, you know, burning the dad up was a little disturbing. And then but this movie really did allow me to be kind of funny and very dramatic. Let it all hang out in terms of the emotional range Brenda could be, you know. And so I just treasured the opportunity to be able to do my craft, you know. I had studied in New York, and I finally had a vehicle that nobody knew it would be successful. I mean, I just thought it was going to be some, you know, it'd be put in the can and that'd be it, you know.
Yeah.
But then it turned out to be what ended up being, and was life-changing for me because I met my husband through it. You know, it was really life-changing, not just another movie. I've done a lot of movies, and it wasn't just another movie I did. You know, it was a life-changing movie.
Susan's superb. Hope to get her back on the show again. She was a lot of fun. I know she said she had a lot of fun, and a lot of fun was had. Ladies and gentlemen, applaud. Beautiful. Check out the full episode if you liked what you got, that little taste there, you know. Next up, I think I got this guy, right?
Yeah. I think you got him.
I think so. It's been a little bit. But I was very happy to get this guest, the great Bennett Yellin. Super cool dude. Very super talented. Wrote, I believe, you know, both Dumb and Dumber movies. He wrote Stuck on You, I believe was him. You
Yeah.
know, did a lot of work with the Farley brothers. But Dumb and Dumber, I mean, my goodness, I can't think of like if you were to lay out like top 5 biggest comedies of all time, I mean I'd say top 10 of all time, Dumb and Dumber has to be in there. It's, you know, if you were gonna go our generation, I'd say definitely top 5. Um, just iconic, great masterpiece. You know, we've been blessed with a lot of guests that have been a part of a lot of good films. But having Bennett on the show was really cool because, I mean, I remember being a young kid watching Dumb and Dumber and it just being iconic. You know what I'm saying? Just being, you know, as someone that makes comedy films, you know, it's just always good. It's one of those things. It's like you tell a young Matty Fish, you say, you know, you're going to be able to, you know, and I still talk to Bennett to this day. And you tell him, hey, you're going to have a nice friendship with the writer of Dumb and Dumber. Sign me up, bro. Sign me up. Maybe all the hard times are worth some of the good times. You know what I mean? So with that being said, I know we're going to pop into kind of the creation, the early days of getting the script for Dumb and Dumber off the ground.
Yeah.
And
I mean, just for me to jump in for a second.
sure. Go for it. Jump.
I mean, yeah, this the thing about this clip and the reason I picked it up was the fact that I'm not going to go too much into it, but there were 2 people that ended up getting the script before the Farley brothers, Jim Carrey, and Bennett Yellin, you know, started going on with the script we know and love today.
Comedy
So the
heavyweights.
thing about, you know, making a script and getting it out there is you shop it around, and there's a lot of people who might be interested who do not end up in the finished product, and that's kind of a little bit of that little journey that Bennett Yellin went on.
And let's find out who those comedy heavyweights are right now with a clip from our interview with Bennett Yellin.
Winter of 1985. Peter was on a date in New York, and at this time, this is Eddie Murphy was a huge star off of Beverly Hills Cop and 48 Hours, huge. And the girl he was on the date with said, "You'll never believe who moved in next door to my parents in Alpine, New Jersey, Eddie Murphy." And Pete was like, "What? Do you ever see him?" And she was like, "Oh yeah, like he was washing his car the other day." So he gave her our script, gave her Dust to Dust. She called a few days later and said, you know, he was coming out to get his mail. And I ran over and gave it to him. She handed it to him. Guys, I don't have to tell you, this could not happen. It could barely happen in 1985.
Yeah.
But it could never happen today, much less in this in the form of, you know, there are no scripts to hand somebody now. You give them you email it to them, you give them a flash drive or whatever.
Yeah.
But we were like, oh wow. And in the meantime, I had come home to Los Angeles for the holidays, and my sister would go folk dancing. She had this one place she loved to folk dance, and she met and knew David Zucker, who also would go folk dancing there. And I asked her, and by the way, my sister's name is Freda, and yes, we did name the character of Freda Felcher in Dumb and Dumber after my sister.
Great
we
tribute.
yeah, and she dines out a lot on that one. And I asked Freda, I said, Freda, would you ask David Zucker if he'd read a script of ours? And she said, sure. And he said yes. And so she gave David Zucker Dust to Dust. All right, now dissolve or to several months later, and we're finished with our program in Massachusetts, and it's time to like figure out, what we're gonna do. And I was still in Massachusetts. I was leaving in about a week or so, and I got a piece of mail from my dad, and I opened it up, and it was a Los Angeles Times ad. Oh, where do I put it here? It was an article in the Los Angeles Times, and the article was all about Eddie Murphy, and it was called like the Eddie Murphy Script Derby, and like how everyone was trying to write a screenplay for Eddie Murphy. And the opening line of the article was, Eddie Murphy was looking out his Alpine, New Jersey window when he saw a sight that made his heart skip a beat. It was a neighbor coming across the street with a script. The neighbor they described the neighbor as a he, not she. The neighbor handed him the script, Dust to Dust. Now Eddie Murphy read it. He liked it. Now, here's what happened. They didn't know who we were. This is exactly what happened. He read it, he loved it, and they couldn't find us. They were looking. They asked around Los Angeles town, is Peter Farrelly and Bennett Yellin, are they represented anywhere? No. And so they planted that in that article to get us to call in. I remember my dad had scrawled in the corner. He said, "Is this your script?" Yeah. So we called Paramount. We said, "Hey, that's our script." And they said, "We've been looking for you." And we came, and so he said, Eddie Murphy wants to meet you, wants you to write something for him. Meanwhile, my sister Freda calls. She says, David Zucker wants to talk to you. He read your script. He really likes it. He gave it to his brother and their partner Jim, and so we came to town from Massachusetts. We moved to Los Angeles, moved in together with a deal to write something for Eddie Murphy and write something for the Zucker brothers, and that's how we got started.
Bennett's a great interview, man. I hope to have him back soon. Loved having that guy on. A lot of fun. Also, which I don't think was in the clip, but one of my favorite and most interesting parts of the Bennett Yellin interview is when he gets into, the writing process with the Farley brothers and how they drive. They drive around and write. Well, I always thought that was such an interesting thing. And if you want to know more about that, hit that full episode, you know what I mean, with Bennett Yellin. So next up, another great guest that was a lot of fun. Billy Bryan on the show. Super duper special effects wizard. You know what I mean? One of the biggest and brightest. I mean, the dude made the Marshmallow Man, for crying out loud. It doesn't get. I mean, we're talking. The beauty of this show for us, I think, is really like tapping into the films that we grew up with and really loved. And it's like being two people in the entertainment business, maybe on the cusp of it, but still in the business. There's nothing better than kind of being able to shoot the Shiatola and get to know and have fun and conversate. And then a lot of times call these people friends after the show, which is a very good thing, with people that just kind of were the masterminds behind the films that made you want to make films. You know what I mean? That's probably my favorite part of the show, other than French kissing Alexander Hauck when nobody's looking. But with Billy, we're gonna pop into some, a filmmaker who I've always loved. Crosses genre. The great Sam Raimi. You know what I mean? Big fan. We're gonna talk about the side of things that you don't really get to see, like the pre-production, like from script to screen, the position that the effects people play, and getting there.
Yeah.
And you want to add anything?
Yeah. Just a brief little thing. One of the things I loved was in this, and not going to get too deep into it,
Yeah.
but talked about, working with, in this case, Spider-Man 2 with Doc Ock's arms, the practical and the CGI, where that met, where that diverged. And what I loved about that was the fact that if you're a smart special effects creator, you know how to use both of them for maximum effect. So look, so I mean, I've said this plenty of times. I'm always more practical effects than CGI, but I do believe that you need both, especially like for the close-up shots. I always say you got to go practical. When you try to do CGI and they're too close, you just can't always tell. And I mean, I'm always like, when you go back, use the CGI, but when you're up front, always bring in that beautiful practical effects all the time.
Hell yeah. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, let's pop into that Billy Bryan episode with a little taste with Mr. Billy Bryan. Now, when you do like the special effects and makeup on a film, do they give you the script or do they bring you in and say, okay, this right here is just what we need? How's that kind of work?
Oh, it depends.
Yeah.
Well, on Ghostbusters, I did read the script and I laughed the whole time. So it was inspiring. It got me knowing that this was going to be cool.
Something special. Yeah.
Right. Usually we're just assigned the thing, whatever it is, the object, and hopefully they give us enough information that we hit it where they're thinking about it.
Yeah.
When Heidi Klum said, "I want to be a worm," for instance, did you see that one?
Which film?
No, actually, it was Halloween Before Last. Heidi Klum's worm costume.
Oh, you were part of that? You made
I built
costume?
that.
Oh, I like that.
I mean, the shape of it, and the details were Mike Marino and company. Anyway, it was. They give you a drawing. Sometimes it's just, and actually, like for instance, at K&B, they had somebody drawing John Bisson had done the sketch of the Pit Bitch, from which Brent Armstrong had sculpted the face, and then I made the costume to match that. It's always, there's a lot of back and forth on Doc Ock to get those tentacles to be mechanical, shiny, and wonderful, and then performable. Yeah, there's a balance there, and so the balance we found was at 4 feet out. It could go digital. That John Dykstra and his crew would take over and would make them long. If they're longer than 4 feet, then they're in. If they're short, if they're up close and personal, then we could use ours.
Yeah,
and then those heads were brilliant assemblies of real mechanical genius. Really, thinking of who all, Larry O'Dean and Mike Elizalde and folks like that working on those. Anyway, it was good stuff.
Whenever I think of Doc Ock, I remember being in the theater watching it, and when they're in the emergency room, and I remember when like Doc Ock, when he grabs the chainsaw and it's like the Evil Dead reference. I remember the audience was like, "Wah!" because it was the first time that Sam kind of acknowledged Evil Dead. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Hello, it's
very
me.
cool. That was you.
No. I mean that's Sam saying hi. It's me.
Yeah. Hey, you remember me? Yeah. Sam's the best. I love Sam.
Now that scene, that operating room scene, that's very different from most shows. They gave us that scene and said, take these 3 months and figure out how to perform this. And so we did puppeteers over at Steve's, and we're coming up, looking at all the various little bits and pieces, trying to come up with interesting ways to make stuff happen. And sometimes, you overthink it, and sometimes you underthink it. At one time, we did, there was this one shot where the tentacle lifts the guy up into the light, and he electrocutes.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Oh yeah.
So we turned it on its side. We put the guy on a gurney, but you couldn't see it, and so we pushed him sideways into the light. They said, "Oh my God, that's great! How'd you do that?" We told him, "Oh, well, we have to do it for real. we need to hook a guy up and pull him into the light." But that looks great.
That was fun. I love
Anyway,
that. Yeah.
yeah, there was some of those great moments. I don't know if you ever saw my buddy Mike Bayou did. I brought him in for those 3 months and then the shoot beyond as well to videotape our rehearsals and cut them together. And so he put together a thing he calls the Occumentary. You can probably find it on YouTube.
Yeah.
And it's got us putting together this stuff, and there's moments when let's see, the tentacle they light a cigar for Alfred, things like that.
Yeah.
It was fun stuff to work out. Piano, various things.
Yeah, Billy's a lot of fun, man. It makes me smile just to see him so full of life, loving what he does, great body of work behind him. He teaches workshops too. So if there's anybody out there that wants to learn some special effects or anything like that, or I don't know, like some of the maybe one of the effects guys we know that maybe should learn how to do effects, he should go take the course in Billy Bryan stuff so he can, you know, do it good stuff. You know what I mean? That's what we like to see around here. So next up, ladies and gentlemen, the one, the only Richard Elfman in the building, writer director of The Forbidden Zone, which is a film that I love. You know, every now and then you stumble into a movie that kind of blows your mind apart, and you're like, "This is insanity. What am I watching?" You know what I mean? And there's no other film than The Forbidden Zone. We get into that, music by Oingo Boingo. Richard's brothers, Danny Elfman, famous composer, did The Simpsons, did a lot of the Tim Burton flicks, did Back to School, Weird Science too, I believe, right? Yeah. Just a lot of the stuff, you know what I mean? Still rocking it nowadays. But yeah, Richard's really cool. He's still making flicks. I think they were trying to do Forbidden Zone 2. I'm still waiting for that Alexander Hauck acting in a Richard Elfman film. I do want to see that before any of us pass on away, for sure.
Heck yeah.
Shout out Anastasia Elfman, his wife. She's very talented too. But yeah, it was really cool to sit down with him. I love talking to the directors the best, especially when their films are films that really kind of, I don't know if I could say it had an influence because I've never done anything like that, but I love the fuck out of it. I think it's a great film, cult classic, if there ever was one, and just a lot of fun to talk to Richard. Do you want to say anything about Richard before we pop in?
Yeah. Just love talking to Richard. A lot of fun. Very happy and interesting guy. What I love about it, I mean, with Forbidden Zone and pretty much everything that he is a director of, is very avant-garde. Has a lot of I know we ended up talking to him in the episode about his experience working in I believe it was France with a company, and where he got a lot of his ideas and style from. And in this clip, we end up talking about Susan Tyrrell and Hervé, which is he's best known, of course, from Fantasy Island.
The
And
planes.
the plane, bots, the plane.
Yeah.
But what I loved about this little conversation is you got a different look at these two characters. I know that there's a lot of different documentaries and other things talking about both of these people, and some of it is not flattering. But Richard was very candid and open about them, and showed a another side of these iconic, I would say, cult actors. I think that's the best way to say about these two. Both of them very talented. I don't think either one of them got the the love that they deserved for their talent. And that's one of the reasons I love Forbidden Zone, is because of those two in that film, and I love the style. So it was great talking to Richard about it.
Howdy, 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 ho. So off we go into our interview with Richard Elfman. Well, with Forbidden Zone, you got Danny's in it. Danny plays the devil in it, which that's one of the most iconic imagery. It's him as the devil, man. That's been burnt into my brain. It's just there's something about it. It's just great with the music. It's just really fucking good. I love it. You know what I mean?
Oh, thank you. Yeah. The kid did okay.
He did pretty good. You know, and you have Herb Valashez in there. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
How did he come under your radar?
Oh, it was a very professional story. Mathew Bright, who played Squeeze and Henderson, went to high school with Danny, an original Mystic Knight of the Oingo Boingo. Hervé was his roommate.
Okay, really?
And Hervé was fucking Susan Terrell. And here we go.
There we go. Bright also wrote a bunch of scripts that you would direct too, which was cool.
Modern Vampires and Shrunken Heads were Mathew Bright's scripts.
How was Herb cool to work with? I know I've heard different stories of him, sometimes being very fun and then times not so fun. You know what I mean?
On our set, he was beyond cool.
Good.
He'd take his check back into the production, show up on weekends to paint, and God, I remember his agent, some son of a bitch, is like trying to get money out of me and trying to get money out of it. And once he realizes there's no money, suddenly he changes to, it's going to kill him. He can't do it with the Fantasy Island, whatever. But Hervé still showed up, and the guy was a prince.
I'm glad to hear that because, like I said, there's mixed talks. You know what I mean? And he sounds like a really super cool.
No. He'd show up on weekends and paint sets. Yeah, that's what we're talking.
Yeah, which is. That's like an amazing story, you know what I mean? Because he's already
and the dynamic with him and Susan, because they were lovers. There was this dynamic, and she came from the New York stage. She had this stentorian voice that could fill 800 seats, and Hervé, big soul in a small body, had a smaller voice box. So in the distance, I'd see them having an argument, and you'd only hear her.
Yeah.
And then as you got closer, then you'd hear the both of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was very much a ladies' man.
I've heard that, yeah.
Enough said.
Enough said.
And Susan described in details that I didn't want to hear, which was one of the quirks of Susan Terrell. God bless her.
His method, his techniques. She explained the techniques that he liked. It was good.
Yeah. The size and spatial differences. Enough said.
Well, equal opportunity, you know what I mean? That's what we like here. You know.
Oh, but he was so charismatic. He'd enter the room and he'd feel the guy's spirit. Very charismatic.
Yeah. Legendary, you know. And I've I grew up with Fantasy Island, of course, catching the reruns of that growing up and stuff, and you got to know him, and not personally, but the character, and very lovable dude. I'm glad to hear good stories about him. That's good.
Yeah. So, I mean, he had a tough life, and he tried to take it away a few times growing up.
Oh, really?
But he was subject to this dwarf tossing thing, injured his back, so he had a tough time.
Yeah, I remember. I heard, the end was really rough for him too, which was sad because of it. I guess it was something with the organs were regular size, but even though he was a little smaller, so it was painful for him. Like I believe he slept standing up or something like that too towards the end. But
Yeah, it was it's a disability. I've worked with a lot of little people.
True.
And they have things to overcome.
Yeah.
It's a disability, and I applaud them for challenging their disabilities and succeeding.
Yeah, it's always a trip talking to Richard. You know what I mean? Another fun fact I learned in the episode was that he used to be a professional boxer. You know what I'm saying? So if you don't go listen to that full episode, I've been informed to tell you he will come to your house and knock you the fuck out. You know what I'm saying? It's a beautiful thing. Next up, another filmmaker that ain't afraid to knock you the fuck out. The great Uwe Boll, friend of the show. He's been on the BoomBastiCAST, by God, 6 or 7 times, it feels like at this point. Just killing it. Dude got out there and duked it out with his duked it out with the critics, dude, which I always, whenever Yui comes up, I always gotta talk about how fucking cool that was for him to pop into the ring and fucking knock some folks out. And it's a beautiful dang, you know what I mean? Yui's a lot of fun. I know in this episode we talk about, film festival fuckery, because no matter if you're at a bigger spot like Yui is, you know what I mean? The dude is theatrical releases, films that'll never go away even after he's dead, all the way down to little old people like us, you know what I mean? They go into our films go into theaters one at a time, you know what I'm saying? It's a beautiful thing. And when we pass on, hopefully we have kids or nieces and nephews to continue to push those films for us, you know what I mean? But always fun talking to Yui. Super real. That's what I like about Yui so much, is he's raw, dude. He is what he is. Love him or hate him, and we happen to love him. And he stands up and speaks his mind, and there's nothing greater than that, especially in the environment we live in now, where everybody would be afraid to speak their mind because of political correctness, or, well, if I offend somebody with my opinion, maybe they won't watch my movie. He don't give a fuck about any of that, which is just balls to the wall, big elephant tight as nuts, swinging. You know what I mean? Love the dude. And the film festival world is super fucked up. Like I said, from big to top, dealing with all types of fucking madness, shysters. Film festivals there's some respectable ones, but there's some super shisty ones now, dude. He gets into some stuff about how, I don't know if I want to get in. I'll let you listen to the interview, what he talks about. But as from a filmmaker standpoint of like lower budget and underground indie films, it's like, dang, dude, like it seems like just about every film festival I see pop up nowadays is run by a filmmaker who's either showcasing his films or her films or their friends' films. And it's just kind of bogus. It's a weird deal. It just leaves a bad taste in my mouth and other filmmakers' mouths, and even film fans that they pay for a ticket to get into these things, and they see, maybe they'll see three-quarters good films, and they gotta sit and watch shit garbage that they don't care about. And they always say it. You can always tell what films are their friends or what films are theirs, because it's usually a bunch of good films with garbage sprinkled in. You know what I mean? Unfortunately, that's the way it is, and it's a free world so far. As of now, it's a free world, so you can do, or a free country rather, so you can do as you wish. But yeah, dude, always fun having you on the show talking about whatever. Super cool dude. Um, I love fucking Uwe Boll. I do. You know what I mean? He's a true independent, a true artist. The fact that he gets shitted on a good amount by a certain amount of folks, I respect the hell out of that dude. You know what I mean? And all he's trying to do is make his movies. Haters are fucking hater garbage. You know what I mean? It is what it is. He gets a lot of love to equal out the hate, but when I think of filmmakers, I mean, he's up there with the ones that get a lot of, unwarranted fucking hate, which I believe is the name of the episode he was first on with us, because that was the case. That was big discussion. But yeah, what do you want to say about Uwe before we pop on in?
Well, I mean, as has been said, I mean, Yui's been on our show quite a bit. I mean, we had him on this year. We got him we already got an episode in the can, ready to go for next year. We always love talking to Yui. And again, I mean, looking at his films, again, love him or hate him, you can't ever say that they're not, that there's nothing good about them, because there's a lot of great stuff. I mean, we can always argue about preference, whether, well, I don't like how he did this or how he shot that, but the fact is, what I love about his stuff is it's always very visceral. It's not always a pleasant experience, okay? But I don't think art is supposed to always be pleasant. I mean, you're not supposed to always go in and just sit down and watch, Iron Man movies and like, yay, Tony Stark shows up, saves the day. I mean, that there's no real feeling behind that, because we all know Tony Stark's going to do this. I mean, if he dies, they'll find a way to make him Doctor Doom, bring him back into the next episode, because Robert Downey Jr. can't leave the MCU. But
Right.
in this episode, we just talk about, again, different critics, how they are less critics and more of, just leeches that are looking for a handout, looking to be brought to set. And the fact is, if you're going to be a critic, an actual critic, you shouldn't be getting any perks. Okay, it's like the same as, being a government official and someone slipping you $500,000 for a supposed speech gig. Well, that they're only doing it so you can vote the way that they want you to vote. I mean, bringing a critic to the set of Lord of the Rings is the same as bribery, in my opinion. And I mean, the fact is that, yeah, it's great, bring them along, but if you're going to a movie and it's still shit, even though they brought you to the set to hang out with, Sean Astin or Ian McKellen or whatever, you got to be able to say, yeah, it's not as good as everyone says. But, I mean, that's what I always hate about the whole critic aspect, is when, they seem to get these perks and they always give great reviews for the people to give them perks, which tells me you're not supposed to actually take anything they say seriously.
Yeah, I agree. First time I ever heard cream pie brought up in a film was from the great Uwe Boll, too. So much respect and much love. And let's pop into that clip from the interview. Again, if you love it, go catch the whole interview. Uwe's always a lot of fun. Without further ado, let's get into that clip now.
But for example, what I felt at IMDb also is that they only use Rotten Tomatoes as the critic score is totally unfair. If they would go on Amazon and see, for example, like how my films are rated on Amazon from the actual viewers, they would have to change a lot of the scores. So and that is the thing. I always got from these critics who are on Rotten Tomatoes bad reviews since House of the Dead, and they never changed their opinion. And then you watch it up and you see like Postal has 13%. I mean, sorry, but Postal, go on Amazon, go with Rampage on Amazon, they have 4.4, 4.3. I mean, and that is ridiculous that they don't correct that based on years go by and the people voting.
Yeah.
And I think that is unfair, because there are these critics darlings. They always have like that high Rotten Tomatoes rating, and then you watch the film and you think like, what the fuck, are you insane? And because some reviewers love it.
What a name, like Rotten Tomatoes. What a great person to get all your advice from. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know. And it's in Germany, we have one, Film Starts is the name. They hate me from day one on. And I always, like the Peterson guy, he's the boss from Film Starts, I totally bashed him in public. Since then, every film 1 star out of 5, whatever I do. It's totally absurd.
Yeah.
And even people writing them, they say, are you insane? Darfur 1 out of 5. What, I mean, you have eyes in your head, or are you crazy? Tunnel Rats 1 out of 5. Total absurd. It's like a personal vendetta the guy has. And I even wrote him an email. I said, look, I'm a person who hit you back. Like if I think I get unfair treated, I'm not going on the defense. I'm going on the offense, right? So, and if you cannot stand it, then you're a pussy, basically. You know, like they need always these directors or whatever. They like kissing their asses, then they're happy, like Harry Knowles did in that years. You know, when you were not sucking up to him, where he had real power, he hated you.
Yeah, Ain't It Cool News. I remember them back in the
Yeah.
day.
Total Rick. I was 2 times in Austin at the Alamo Film Fest, right? And he was there in his wheelchair, you know, and it was like, he's like, yeah, over, you know, like they fly me in. Like it was that time where Hollywood big productions, he was at Lord of the Rings on set or whatever, they were flying him in, you know. And I said, yeah, but sorry, but I make independent films. I'm not flying a reviewer in. I mean, it's insane, you know. So and he's just like bashed some of the movies, and I felt like, you know, I when I talked person to him, I said, look, I have nothing against Ain't It Cool News, but you're basically bought. Like they pay you, and you want to get more invites to film sets. And so you suck up to them. And that is not what the reviewer should do. You still should say, it was great on set of whatever, the new Indiana Jones, but it's still a crappy film, sorry. So, I mean, you know, but that is the thing, that is your job. It's like if you're a real restaurant tester or something, I mean, sorry, but if the food is shit, only because you know the owner, you cannot like don't write about the food was horrible. And I think that is the honor film reviewers should have. Like, you know, I mean, they should be honest to themselves too.
Yeah, we all fight the fight with Uwe on that, you know. I mean, from, you know, sending a film off to a festival, and damn thing not even be getting open, but they take your 300 bills or whatever, horrifying. And then just weird critics that feel like they're the fucking main attraction, you know. Harry Knowles over there, who I can only speculate, and don't take my word for it. Do some Google if you care, but I think Harry got himself in some hot water a couple of years ago, and you know, that's as far as I think I'd say without officially knowing. Google that up if you want to. I know that he looks like a ghost now. Harry Knowles looks like that fucking famous painting of the ghoul dude on the bridge with his face kind of melting. I forget, it's like The Sound of Horror or something like that, the name of it.
Scream.
The Scream. Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah, Harry Knowles has become the Scream, unfortunately. But it's all a scream. You scream, I scream. We all scream for ice cream. Next up, the great Bruce Vilanch, guy, you know, comedian, been doing it forever. If you don't know the name, you know the look. That's for sure. You know, Hollywood Squares. He was big with the Oscars. Just a super writer. He's probably you know, if you also know his pen. If you don't know the face, you know, I mean, you don't know the name, you might know the look, you know the pen. You probably knew some shit that he done wrote on. Super cool dude. Would like to get him back. You know what I'm saying? Talk about the Oscars. Realistically, we used to like do the Oscars. I think we still do, but it's kind of half-assed. I think the actual name's half-assed Oscar predictions. Sadly, like the films aren't like grabbing us the way they used to. You know what I mean? Like there's too much politics in it now, so we can't really even get too emotionally invested in it because it's like, well, the film that should win probably might not win because it's not pushing the right agenda or anything. But at one point there was a plan to bring Bruce in every year, and we talked to him about it, and he was kind of hip to it, about doing Hip to Be Square to name his episode. But he was kind of hip with the idea of doing it, and it's just we haven't really been passionate about movies that are getting nominated. You know what I mean? It's like we'll do the episode because it's hot topic stuff in the entertainment world, but like, you know, the films aren't driving us they're just not, sadly, those films aren't what they used to be. You know what I'm saying? But we're not going to get into that in this episode. But we'll get a little bit into the Oscars and take a journey with Bruce. Super cool. Dude should have had a cartoon. Bruce should have had his own cartoon. Author as well. I picked up a couple of his books. I think he's got 3 or 4, I believe. I think I have 2 of them. One from way back, I think in the 90s, and then I got one from more recent, the last like 5 or 6 years. I think he released one, or maybe even sooner, within those 5 or 6. But Bruce was super cool to have on Icon. You know what I mean? He's a dude that I remember from being fucking knee high to a pissant, seeing on television. You know what I mean? And his face is always, I've always known his face. I've always seen him around. Super cool dude. Super talented, and it was just a pleasure to have him on the show. You want to say anything before we pop into Bruce?
Yeah, sure. Just one of the things that you'll see in the clip that we touch upon is pretty much how the academies have kind of like lost its glamour, not quite as big as they used to be. I mean, supposedly, if you believe in stats and all that, that like audience of the Academy Awards over the last, I would say, 5 years at least, have been diminishing. I mean, it got to a point that when the infamous slap happened, a lot of people were wondering, was this staged to try bring more viewers in? Which again could very well be a possibility. I don't think it was, because if it was a dumb way to do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, and Bruce has been there from a long for years. I mean, he was there during the Billy Crystal era, and honestly, I don't think there has been a Oscar host as good as Billy Crystal. He knew how to, make the show fun. He had great humor. His humor worked in that situation. A lot of times they try to bring in, oh, this guy's hip, this guy's funny. Let's put him into as a host for the Oscars. And then you sit back and you watch and you kind of like, no. I mean, honestly, I think one of the worst was when they decided to, they had James Franco, and who else did they have? It was James, I think it was Hathaway.
Hathaway, yeah, exactly.
I mean, when they tried to do that, it was very evident that it was quite painful. But
that was pre-cancellation for Franco, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, that was right before.
Right before.
It came out that he was, how should we say, a little bit more hands-on with those of a younger age.
What's a delicate way, clean way to say this? He forced girls to give him blowjobs, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I think that kind of sums that up.
Is that a PG way of saying things? I don't know. Speculation.
I think I was a little bit more PG in my dancing around the subject.
Maybe you're right. But Franco is a good-looking dude, so he only got a slap on the wrist. You know what I'm saying? That's how it goes.
Good-looking dude with money. I mean,
welcome to Hollywood world.
Yeah.
All right. So with that being said, we mosey on into Bruce, right? Getting down with the Bruce, man.
Yep, getting down with Bruce. And so sit down and watch a great interview with the one and only Bruce Vilanch.
The Academy Awards don't seem as classy as they used to be. It's almost like it's like the MTV Movie Awards now. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, of course they are. Pandering.
Yeah.
They're more modern, and they're by definition they're looser than they have to be. They lost some of their pomposity, but that's because their cultural relevance is not exactly what it used to be. Even when I started doing it, even in the heyday of Billy Crystal, it's just a little different now. And I mean, so much has happened. I mean, when somebody actually gets up and slaps somebody, I mean, you have to just sort of sit back and say, wait a minute, what are we allowing? What's happened that this kind of the discourse has changed like this? And so but on the other hand, there is a self-awareness to the show that is refreshing. I mean, the idea is that Frances McDormand said, okay, everybody sit up, this is a serious category. A few years ago when she was presenting something. And it was, it's just, I guess it kind of goes with the time.
It does. It's gotten a little more lenient, I feel, in the years where, like, I remember back in the days, it'd be like, if you were a new filmmaker or a new actor, even if you had like a superb performance, like they wouldn't give it you first time out the gate, I feel. They would make you kind of come back a couple more times and really earn it. Where nowadays, no offense to anybody winning nowadays, but it's like you could be a first time filmmaker or first time actor, and if it's good enough, you're gonna get it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's that's not necessarily. There are a lot of people who have been around for a while who just weren't in things where they were noticed, and suddenly they have a part like in Everything Everywhere All Over Your Face. Those actors have been working for a long. I mean, Casey Kwan, since he was a kid, and in the Indiana Jones movie, he just hadn't been working in stuff people saw.
Yeah.
And suddenly here was a role in a movie that everybody saw, and it's like they were discovering him as an adult.
True.
So, but that doesn't, I mean, it's rare. I think it's rare for somebody to come out of nowhere, but and get something like that. But obviously not impossible. In some years, where especially in the leading actress category at the Oscars, where there are so few performances because there are so few roles written that are of award caliber.
Yeah.
That there'll be people in there going, who was she and what was she in? Although that may not happen this year, but for a different reason, the Academy has expanded its voting base. And it's very international now, and it's younger and much more diverse, which is why Sandra Hüller will get nominated, which is why Poor Things won so many of the technical awards, because that voting base was not a Hollywood-centric base of artists and technicians. It was all over the world. The picture was made in Europe, and so the voting base recognized all of that, and that never used to happen. So as it was racking up those awards, I thought, wow, this really is proof that the Academy is not the old hidebound Academy that it was. And even though you look the last bunch of years, pictures like Parasite and 12 Years a Slave and Moonlight and Everything Everywhere, those never would have won Oscars, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
But the voting base has changed.
Bruce is a lot of fun, man. He's good. Nobody rocks those red glasses like Bruce. You know what I'm saying? That's all I gotta say about Something and the Other Thing. Good dude. Love to have him back on the show again. A lot of fun. Iconic dude. Super cool. What's that shining in the back of the room? By golly, that's a gem. Samantha Newark back on the show. Joining us from the, probably most notably for voicing Jem on the hit cartoon show Jem from the 80s that I love. Jem in the Holo. I don't know why I want to say Jen. My sister's name's Jen, so I apologize. Jem in the Holograms. Super cool cartoon. Watched it as a kid. She's been doing a whole bunch of all different types of stuff. Super talented girl. A lot of fun to have her on the show. Sweetheart. You know what I mean? She's still out there killing it. Just about every convention I see pop off, she's at, which is cool. I love to see people out there getting the love they deserve. I know some people think that doing conventions might be, it's like a money grab or like you need the money. Nah, dude, you go out there, you get the appreciation you deserve. You know what I mean? You get some money. You deserve the money too. I mean, you entertain these people, and sometimes, a lot of the times, the contracts that you get and the money you get off of these projects that we all love aren't exactly you know, still paying the bills, so to speak. So I got no shade for anybody going out there to cons because yeah, they're making money, but I think more importantly in the bigger scheme of things is they're interacting with the people who really love them. And how can you frown on that? You know what I mean? That's a beautiful thing. What do you want to say about Samantha before we pop into her glorious clip from her absolutely fantastic?
Well, I mean, the thing is, I mean, she's a sweetheart. She was a lot of fun to talk to. I mean, in this clip, we'll, just briefly talk about, her career beforehand, mainly music, singing, and all that. And then, of course, her transition from that and commercials to becoming a voice actress. And one of the things that I found throughout doing this and talking to people that a lot of times when you see an actor and actress and then you don't see them for like years, a lot of times they end up getting into voice acting. I mean, there's a lot of, there's Dwight Schultz. There's a lot of others. Right now, I can only think of Dwight Schultz. But I mean, you don't see him around. But you look at his IMDb, and he has like reams and reams of voice actors. Same thing with Phil Lamar, another Mad TV alum. So I mean, and I always have mad respect for voice actors and actresses because I mean, you got those that can do a million different voices, and then you have those who have a specific, very telling voice, like John Ratzenberger. I mean, he always uses his same voice, but it works in his characters, and it's a lot of fun. But it was great talking to Samantha about her career and her experiences. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, so without any further ado, let's pop into that clip. And like I said, if you like the clip, rock that episode. Here it is. So when you first said California, was the ambition strictly the music thing, or was it? I know you said you were doing the voiceover auditions and stuff. Was it a strictly music at first, or how did
it was? Yeah, because the voiceover thing didn't really start to happen until I was in my late teens. I'd never done a voiceover. I was auditioning for commercials. I was booking commercials, McDonald's and Payless shoes and things like that. And I was auditioning for soaps. I screen tested for Days of Our Lives. I, screen tested for Little House on the Prairie. I was real super close to getting Mallory on Family Ties. Like that was the time frame. Auditioned for Facts of Life. And it wasn't until one day my agent called and said, we have an audition for an animated series. And I was like, to be a cartoon? And they were like, yeah, to be a cartoon. She's a rock star. And I was like, oh my gosh, she sings? That's amazing. And I kind of thought that's why I got the audition, because they knew that I sang. But it turns out that the music was all this big machine that was already in production in New York, and they were casting the voiceover actors to match the singing counterparts. And none of us knew that at the time. We just knew we were auditioning for a cartoon that was music driven. That's pretty much all we knew. And who knew I would get the lead in it.
Yeah, I mean, I figured your music background would have played a part into the audition process of it, but if they already had it rolling out,
that's what I thought. And I know there are a lot of voice actors that sing, and there are cast members that also sang, but we never even met any of the music side of things until there's a Comic-Con called GemCon that's been going now for about 17 years, and it's the diehard fans. They fly in from all over the world. It's a different city every year, and they over the years have done an incredible job bringing the music counterparts together with the voice actors. So we've all been able to meet each other, all the creatives from all the different sides of Gem.
When you're reading for like a voiceover thing, I assume is it the same thing as if you were doing like a live action thing, or is there any different type a setup? You're just gonna go in there and read for the producers in front of at a table, or is it they bring you into a studio first off?
Right. Well, Gem, it was just myself in a booth, and Wally was the director. Wally Bird, the director who directed like thousands of cartoons. amazing director. What an incredible time for animation. I mean, my God, I didn't realize at the time that I just landed in the mecca of like the most incredible animation that was going. So yeah, I auditioned with Wally for Wally, and it was just me in the studio. And I left, and I remember I couldn't really take the temperature of it. I couldn't, I couldn't gauge whether I'd done a good job or not. And I'd been on enough auditions to just have to go, oh well, oh well, we'll see what happens and let it go. And that's what you have to do. Otherwise you turn into a complete crazy person. So you can't be attached. You just got to go on to the next thing. Yeah. And then I ended up getting the job, and which didn't feel like a job. I just landed amongst the most amazing voice talent that I could have ever dreamed to have worked with. Charlie Adler and Townsend Coleman and Sue Blue and Patricia Albrecht and Bobby Block. Well, Bobby Block's Samantha Paris now, but all of these incredible voice talents, Kathy Ann Bloor. And then we recorded Ensemble, which was, what a gift that was. That was kind of like live radio almost, where we're sharing mics and we're literally recording together. So that doesn't happen hardly ever. So I was really, really lucky to get to do that.
Samantha's a lot of fun. Looking forward to having her back on the show in the future. Sweetheart, like we said, just great conversations. Next up, as my brother says, our friend, our brother, our father, the master of ceremonies himself, Larry Hankin, doing it big. Another, multiple appearances on the BoomBastiCAST. We always love to have him. And the dude ain't afraid to talk about anything. Opinion for days, you know what I mean? Just a super good dude. This dude goes back to Home Alone, TV show, every TV show there ever been, dude, you know what I mean? He's just kind of been there doing it, killing it, all the way back to The Committee with the great Carl Gottlieb, just doing it fucking awesome. Always a pleasure to have Larry on the show. So much entertainment history with that dude, and he always loves talking about it. And, I think this time around, we're talking about his new book that he's working on, which Alexandra, I know over there, rocked them 2 books, doing it big. Yeah, what do you got to say about the great Larry Hankin?
Well, I mean, I love Larry. I mean, heck, he's the man who literally made the couch from Married with Children.
Believe it.
Yep. I mean, if you might not know, there's an episode where they end up burning the couch and they go to Larry Hankin's character, who's the one who actually created the couch. It was something that drove him mad. But anyway, I love Larry. He's so much fun. And what you'll see in this clip is pretty much talking about him working on his second book. And his second book is a work of fiction. Now, his very first book, That Guy, was a memoir, pretty much about his life, his experiences, and all that. So that was a lot easier for him to do. But when he did the book, they were like, "What's next?" And then he had to think about what can he write about. And then he started going down the rabbit hole of working on the second book and what it took to accomplish that.
Yeah. Last I talked to Larry, me and him have a little collaborative thing going on where we're going to be diving into one of the books. It's going to be a little project between us, which is cool. So we'll see how that goes. I can't really say too much more about it at this point, but be on the lookout for more news on that. So without any further ado, let's get into this segment with our episode with the great Larry Hankin.
Because he said, "Well, I like the book you wrote, That Guy. That's really good. What's your next book going to be?" And I go, whoa, what's that all about? And so I got to come up with another book because I was out for this 6 months it took to write it. I just quit doing acting. And in the meantime, my agents, those 2, they both retired. So by the time you write a book, and I have this history of acting, if your agents retire, and they were with me all the way through, and they retire, to go back and find another agent, during COVID and then after COVID, and it was just too much. It's very hard. It's very hard to start over again. So that's like, hey, why don't you write another book, or why don't you write a book? To get another agent for acting, when I thought, well, they'll always be there. No, they won't. If I stopped, well, I mean, they had other clients, but
yeah,
I guess everybody kind of had the same idea at the same time. So I thought, well, no, I'll write the second book. But the second book, I already, put out my life. It's a memoir. That's what it is. It's a memoir. So I had to make up now a book. And that is really hard. And then you have to go according to the rules of writing fiction, because what I wrote wasn't fiction. What I wrote was nonfiction. And nonfiction is easier because it comes from real life, something that actually happened from somebody. And second, making up a book-length story. And then I go, oh, that's why it takes 2 years to write a book.
yeah.
I mean, and then you have to, there's no timeline to it. I mean, I make up a thing about a car crash. A guy's in a car crash. Or maybe I was in a car crash. But I make it up. Well, what came before that? I mean, the car crash took, like 10 seconds.
Yeah.
And you go to the hospital, okay, and maybe you were drunk or high or something, and you didn't know, or you were sick, and that's what caused the car crash. But there's stuff all over the place that happened way before it and way after that you have no idea how you got into the car crash. You have to make that up and make it interesting, and make it all fit together. I don't recommend entertainment at all. Any kind of entertainment. It's, the first one is always the easiest. And then it gets harder because, you got the public is insatiable. Hey, I mean, that's what they say. Well, I put out this book. Hey, what's your next book going to be like? Duh.
Larry, another dude who's always a trip. Looking forward to the next rendezvous with him and that super secret project that we were talking about coming your way soon, ladies and gentlemen. Next up, John D. Hancock, man, director of, we're talking about Let's Scare Jessica to Death. We're talking about Weeds, you know what I mean? We're talking about Bang the Drum Slowly. Legendary, very soft-spoken. Dude's been a part of some really cool stuff. Sadly, I think he's one of those dudes that doesn't almost understand how much of an impact he's kind of had in cinema, you know what I mean? But just, Prancer, like straight from the childhood, well-rounded body of work. It isn't the biggest body of work, but, it's definitely important and stands out, you know what I mean? My favorite, check out, if, this is one of the episodes you want to check out the full deal on, because we don't really get into my favorite part of the episode in this best of segment, but I loved when we kind of broke down the walls, stopped kind of talking about his films, because we can kind of, can kind of tell he wasn't really talking about his films, wasn't really priority on his list type deal, you know what I mean? But just to kind of talk shop and talk about current films and what we liked and what we didn't like with someone who's made some big films that we appreciate was very cool. That was my favorite part of talking with John, you know what I mean? Really cool guy. And what do you think? What do you think there, Alexander the Hauck?
Well, I mean, it was a lot of fun talking to him. In this clip, I end up talking a bit about that films like Weeds, Bang the Drums Slowly, definitely are like older classic films that might not have gotten the love that they should have been, that should be re-released. I mean, right now we're stuck with so many, rehashings and reinventions of things that came out like 3 years ago, which I think is beyond ridiculous.
Yeah.
And I mean, I really enjoyed Weeds. I love that movie. I definitely think. We were talking about that ever becoming a Blu-ray, and he said, there's a lot of legal aspects that they have to jump through to try to get that to happen.
Uh-huh.
And again, it's what I like about John's work is that it all has heart, it all has a story, it's a moving story, and it's something that you can actually get behind instead of a lot of films that come out now, which even the ones that come out that are trying to be more like socially relevant, okay, they end up, just beating you over the head with, well, this is the morality of the film instead of here's a good film.
Right.
This is about a moral story. This is about how things should be or how people deal with life. Okay? Instead of saying, well, you should believe this. This is the right way to be. You should not be mean or do this. And that's like the entire thing. And there's very little stories just, trying to beat that idea into you, which no one wants to listen to a lecture. I mean, that's what I like about these kind of films that John D. Hancock created, which are they're good stories with a moral message, but it's not like that he's trying to beat you over the head with it. It's like, here's a good story, and this is how, these people deal with this situation. You can either accept it or not, but this is a way to deal with things other than going to the most basest desire.
For sure. Yeah. And that Sing Sing movie, I didn't see it, but that looked kind of like it was right up the alley of Weeds.
That movie I loved. Honestly, as far as I'm concerned, it should have been up for Best Picture.
It was it? No?
No, I don't think it was. It was up for Best Song and Best Script. Right? Either like based on something before or whatever. I think those were the only two Oscars it was up for. I watched that movie. I loved Sing Sing, and Sing Sing and Weeds are very similar in kind of the story of dealing with prisoners and them trying to kind of regain some sense of humanity through the arts, through theater. Which again, I mean, you're talking to Matt and me. I mean, we're going to always have a soft spot for those kind of stories because we believe art and filmmaking and theater and all that is important in trying to help people grow and help to teach people. So again, like I said, love Weeds. Hope that they finally get out on Blu-ray one of these days.
Hell yeah. And I'm going to leave a cliffhanger until after the clip, but I got some news about Weeds. So with that being said, let's spread the weeds and walk into this little clip from our interview with John D. Hancock doing it.
Well, shortly after that, you did the film Weeds, which I'm a big fan. I love Weeds. I remember that was a blind VHS pickup at the old rental store when I first seen that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And with Nick Nolte on the cover. And it was I loved the film, but like, I wasn't expecting that from I was expecting to see some like gritty cutting throats, like there's violence in it and stuff, but like, I wasn't expecting it to go into the direction that it did with, the theater stuff and him writing like the play, the theater there. But that was, how was Nick Nolte to work with?
He was great fun. He was trying to be sober at that point and not take drugs, and he largely succeeded. We had, it's like somebody you go to high school with. We had a lot of fun together. DEG, De Laurentiis Entertainment Group, financed it and produced it. And the guys that I know, I mean, Dino's dead, but I still know guys that were there. And they say, oh, we publicized it wrong. We sold it as a gritty prison story when we should have sold it as a human potential picture. And I think that's right. We're trying to get it re-released. There's never been a DVD, never been a Blu-ray, because for years it was thought that Dino had lost the negative somehow in his bankruptcy. And now we finally have located the negative. It's in Technicolor. And we want to get somebody to put out a Blu-ray. But nobody knows who owns it, because in his bankruptcy, it was transferred from one Canal Plus to another entity who then sold it to another entity. And I paid a bunch of New York lawyers a lot of money to try to determine who owned it. When I would try to make a musical out of it about 8 or 9 years ago. And they came back with a report, very detailed report, saying they can't figure out who owns it. So it's very hard to get a company to take a risk on putting out a Blu-ray if they don't know who owns the title. So I'm looking for a company that has a kind of buccaneer spirit that's willing to just do it and let the chips fall.
Do you have a print of it to kind of remaster?
I have a negative. Yeah, and also there's a virgin print at the Library of Congress if they wanted to use that too. So, I mean, the materials are there to do it. Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, it's really quite a masterpiece. It's a beautiful film about like the prison and class systems, and Nick Nolte is great in it. Ernie Hudson's fantastic in it. William Forsythe is great in it. It's beautiful. It really is a beautiful film. I think it might be my favorite. And it's super powerful. You know what I mean? Like I love when they have the riot, like because it's getting a little too real. You know what I mean? When they start talking about all the, the poor people ain't never been. They don't go to the rich people don't go to jail. You know what I mean? That strikes a nerve with a lot of people.
Yeah, my communist phase enters in there.
Even today, I think. I mean, stuff like that resonates forever. You know what I mean? They'll never go away. I know that's in every list of Nolte's best films. That's always right up there, which has got to be great kudos. That would be cool. I'd love to see a nice Blu-ray of that, or even get it popping on streaming again. And like we were saying with filmmakers, I mean, there's so many like distribution places now. Now, some of them, like we said, aren't the best quality or best places to go. But I think now is a time when there's a lot of, like a Vinegar Syndrome, which is kind of like an underground, but they put out good stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be a potential company that could do it well. Oh, I forgot the name of some other, but there are several companies that could do it well. Kino Lorber.
Kino would be a great home for that, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, I think right now would be a good time to bring out a film like that, because I mean, a lot of stuff that they keep on pushing right now is kind of remakes and rehashing and all of that. But I think what we need now more than ever is to bring out classic films that might not have, made a big splash, but bring them out now, because I was talking to a friend of mine about, if you're looking at like the different decades of film, that each decade kind of has kind of an identity. Okay, the 70s have an identity, the 80s have an identity. But if you look at like the 2020s, they don't have an identity. It's all rehashings, these empty franchise movies. There's very few things coming out that's really, saying anything or doing anything. And the thing is that I think that we need to reach back and look at some of the classic. I mean, unfortunately, I went to the movies recently and I saw a whole bunch of trailers, and I was so unimpressed by all of them.
Well, it's all just explosions.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't give you anything. And, films like Weeds, I definitely think this is a prime time to bring out films like that, give him another, shot, because I mean, there's nothing really out there right now that's actually really touching any subjects, any real like heart and soul issues. Yeah, I mean that's the same thing with Bang the Drums Slowly and Weeds. I mean, both films I definitely think should be, definitely pushed forward if we can, just to, cut through all the noise and the explosions of all the crap that they're throwing out right now.
Great John D. Hancock, very cool. So I know you all been cliffhanging, and I want everybody to know Weeds has been released on Blu-ray. I think Shout Selects maybe put it out. I have seen it. I've seen John sharing it. So go pick that up. Go pick up the Weed Show support. I know Scare Jessica to Death. That came out I think last year or the year before. I want to say it came out not too long before our sit down with them. You know what I mean? Very cool stuff. Bang the Drum Slowly was Oscar nominated. You know what I mean? I'm surprised that I never see that on Blu-ray. I barely see the DVD. I own the VHS. The only format that I think I own it on is VHS. I don't know if it made its way to DVD. Same thing, like with Weeds. Like I own Weeds and Bang the Drum Slowly and Scare Jessica to Death. I had on VHS. Scare Jessica to Death I had on DVD as well. But yeah, for sure. You know what I mean? They were, some of them were tough to get. You know what I mean? But I'm glad to see with the Blu-ray, the Blu-ray era, Scare Jessica to Death, Bang the Drum Slowly. I'd have to double peek on it. It's gotta be. It was one of the first big films for De Niro. It's gotta be it's gotta be in the mix there, you know what I mean? And I know, like I said, I know Weeds just got a release earlier this year on Blu-ray. And when John talked about it, he's very hesitant to be like, yeah, it's definitely coming. Like he's one of those Murphy's Law type guys, I think, where it's like, let's not talk about it or it ain't gonna happen type deal, you know what I mean? Like one of those deals. Very cool. I like Johnny. He's a good guy. I hope to have him back on in the future. Next up for December and our last clip it of well, maybe we have one more clip it, a surprise clip it for people after. We'll see. But December, Master Daniel Pesina, one of the co-creators of Mortal Kombat. So, we thought it was very fitting to have him as the December episode because I remember catching Mortal Kombat, 1 through 3 on Super Nintendo for Christmas gifts throughout years, you know what I mean? And it just seemed very fitting, you know what I mean? It was one of those games that, you knew they were going to be dropping that thing around Christmas time so people can pop it up, get it. I think, the Master Daniel, old friend of the show, Steve Joyner, I think, hooked him up with it. We'll give him a shout out. He helped with some guests this season, the 2024 season. We appreciate his help. Shout out Steve if you're listening. But yeah, Master Daniel, having him on was cool, learning about, the live action, the way that the interesting thing with that episode with me was just learning kind of the stages it took from ground up to get Mortal Kombat done. And the whole thing with like them filming people. Like he'd go in there and do the moves and then they would record that and they would take the actual live footage of the actors performing the kicks and stuff, and then they'd like overlay it with the computer graphics, which was an interesting take. So it was just really kind of interesting to see how all that stuff's done in the creation of such a monstrous game. Like when you bring up Mortal Kombat, you're talking about a game franchise that's right up there with Mario, right up there with Sonic the Hedgehog. You know what I mean? Like it's GTA for the newer kids. You know what I mean? It's one of those things. The franchise is still going strong. There's a new video game every couple years, and I believe that there's a movie about to pop
Yeah,
off.
there's a new movie dropping.
Yeah, there's a
Carl
new,
Urban is like playing Johnny Cage, I think.
who is?
Carl Urban.
Okay, very cool. So yeah, like it's one of those things that'll never go away, and we're happy for that. You know what I'm saying? Daniel, super cool guy, super talented, humble, very humble dude. Um, I liked him talking about his early days of the training and stuff like that, and you know his sensei, the people that taught him and how serious they were. We get a little bit into the Bruce Lee talk and stuff like that. Bruce Lee's untimely death. Just a lot of really cool. This was a really cool, fun episode. Obviously, we're gonna dip into the Mortal Kombat stuff for this clip it because it's probably the most well-known stuff we'll say to catch your eye. But definitely another episode. All the episodes, I think, if you liked a little bit of it, or even if you're interested, or maybe even if you're not interested, I think you should even pop that episode on because it's a lot of fun and you learn something new every day. You know what I'm saying? It's a beautiful thing. But yeah, Master Daniel was a lot of fun having on the show. You want to say anything before we pop into the clip?
Yeah, had a lot of fun talking to him. It was fun talking about again the creation of one of the biggest video game franchises out there. He even again we had a brief little discussion about Ninja Turtles: Secret of the Ooze, which
Yeah.
he played one of the foot soldiers in there during the Vanilla Ice scene and
That boy Adam Carl. Yeah.
throughout the entire movie. But I mean, what also was interesting, he was talking about how, he, his brother, and like two other people were involved, but they aren't the ones that get the credit for creating Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
And he says, yeah, they might have the title, but you put them in a room with me, they have to admit that, it was us that created the movie, and I mean the video game series. And of course, one of the things that is always exasperating, which we've talked about before with a lot of other people on the show, is the fact that there's a lot of times where people who create iconic characters or stories and all that don't always get the credit that they deserve, which I think is a complete failing of the system. But it was great to have him on the show, talk about it. And I mean, if you ever want to know who's one of the main people behind this great game, look no further than Master Daniel, because he's the one that made sure that it happened.
Yeah, for sure. It's like Rob Liefeld, kind of, with the Deadpool character. You know what I mean? He was working for Marvel, created Deadpool under their umbrella, and then he left, I think, to do Image Comics with like McFarlane and them. And he left, it was their property. So, even though he kind of created the character, Marvel takes ownership of Deadpool. It's kind of the same deal. It's how things work when there's corporation involved, you know what I mean? Showbiz is, it's the entertainment and the business mash up. The creator creates and the business collects, I guess. That's how it goes, I'd assume. I mean, the business does put out the money to promote and to create on a mass, we'll say mass distribute or whatever. It's a yin and a yang, you know what I mean? You got to know the deal, and depending on your contracts and such, you can get the hot tamale up your ass. But it is what it is, you know what I mean? So, with that being said, let's pop into this episode with Master Daniel Pesina, and we'll catch you after the clip. So I want to pop into the Mortal Kombat games for a second here. The motion caption performer, you know what I mean? Could you give us a little insight into that? Because I've seen it. I've seen something with the WWF, like an arcade wrestling game where they had the wrestlers go in and kind of do the moves, and I never really kind of knew that. I always thought it was complete computer graphics, but I guess you guys go in there and you perform, and they take like the shot of you, and then they put computer graphics over you or something like that. How does that work?
Actually, because we didn't have the title, I am the fight designer. I am the concept and co-creator of Scorpion and Sub-Zero.
Oh, hell yeah.
So, but we didn't have those titles back then. So, and I know 2 other guys take the credit for the whole thing, but yeah, face to face, they would have to change their story because they know the truth. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there were 4 of us, myself, my brother Carlos Radin, and the guy who played Kano, Rich DeVizio, got together with Tobias and created a concept package, which included artwork and choreography and on videotape. And we presented that package to Midway Game. Midway, in response, liked the idea, and they sent a manager programmer, Ed Boon, to meet with us and hear our ideas about the game. No mention of Van Damme, so that's a myth. Even though the company kept saying that was after they Ed turned us down for the first round of the game. He thought it wouldn't make any money. But again, in his defense, that's what his job was, to guard, to see if, in his opinion, if it was a moneymaker.
Yeah.
And we were independent, so just like today, a lot of you go to sell your Rocky. How many times did he have to freaking try to sell the script before nobody believed in Rocky? But now everybody's like, oh shit, Rocky. Yeah. Same thing with Mortal Kombat. Midway and the guy who's in charge of who takes the credit as the co-creator of the game, really said no to the game, thought it wouldn't make any money the first round. So we got turned down, and he told me that he liked the idea of a fighting game, but they were going to do a fighting game with Van Damme, a different fighting game with Van Damme. So they pursued that game. That didn't work out. So, our friend John Tobias called me up and said, hey, they're going to let us work on our game. So me and him sat in a room for 60 to 80 hours videotaping and creating a video game called Mortal Kombat. So yeah, and his instruction was do something cool. That's what he told me to do. The first day of creating Mortal Kombat, he was just like, do something cool. And so I just started filming martial art moves, coming up with ideas. He wanted to have Japanese ninjas, and I said there's a lore of the Lin Kuei, and he was like, what? And I was like, they have mysticism, so we can have like magic in the game, because I played Dungeons and Dragons, and collected comic books. So I was like, just like describing it. I was like, and everybody uses Japanese ninjas, and these ninjas don't look like any ninjas that are out there. And and I showed them what I wanted, and basically it's what Scorpion and Sub-Zero look like today, except for the color. He added the color, so that's why I say I'm the concept creator and that. So I was like, man, it'll make this game unique, and let's just do that. And he was like, okay. And that's one of the things is he promised me that any idea I had that would work, we would put in the game, because he wasn't really paying me. I didn't get any money for the first 6 weeks of creating Mortal Kombat. I never got paid, even though him and I created the thing. Yeah. So he was just like, any idea you have, we'll put in the game. And so, so anytime I see Scorpion and Sub-Zero, I'm like, yeah, I created those guys and gave them life, So so
great.
And every single, not every single, but most of the special moves and fatalities I created. So
very cool.
Yeah. So again, we didn't have those titles back in the day, but now we call me, doing fight design and doing character design and creation.
Well, that was a great Daniel Pesina. Had a lot of fun with him on the show, and I learned a lot about Mortal Kombat that we didn't know before. Now, that, of course, is everyone that we had on the show, but we do have one special little thing for my pal, my bestest friend in the world, Mr. Mathew Fisher. I decided to get him a cameo from an actor that has been in one of his ultimate favorite movies, working with his ultimate favorite director.
Yes,
Now,
sir.
if you are a fan like I am of the BoomBastiCAST or any of our shows, you might be able to figure who this guy is. But you know what? I want to make this as a surprise gift to you, our fans, as it was a gift to my friend over there, Mr. Mathew Fisher. So, without any further ado, here is a cameo from a familiar face.
Well, there are a few stories, of course, but most of them I've told. In fact, probably all, if the truth be known. I always liked the one where I went, this is before we started shooting, I'd spend a lot of time over at Stanley's house, which was an hour outside of London. You know, he lived in Elstree, or Boreham Wood, as it was, which is where he shot at MGM 2001. So I'd go out there. Anyway, he was in his office. He had earphones on. It was a small room. And I went in. He looked up at me and told me to be quiet, you know. So I quietly waited for him. And he was listening for quite a long time. And I thought, well, he's probably listening to, you know, a new recording of Beethoven's Ninth or something like that. And how wonderful. Anyway, he was listening for 20 minutes or something. It was kind of weird. Anyway, and eventually he took the earphones off, looked at me, and he went, another near miss at Heathrow. He'd been listening to the traffic controllers at the airport, and he'd figured out there'd been a near miss. That means that, you know, a plane had come within another plane in about a mile or something. I think they count that as a near miss, so I don't think it was anything too catastrophic. But that was Stanley, you know, absolutely. And the weird thing is that he actually had a private pilot's license, but he was, paranoid about certain things. He wouldn't fly commercial, which, let's face it, is safer than crossing the road. Statistics show us. So it doesn't make any sense. I guess he just couldn't stand any situation where he wasn't in total control. Which begs the question, he never really loved working with actors, because actors sometimes forget their lines and they sometimes do their thing, you know. And so he doesn't absolutely have absolute control over them. But anyway, I got on with him absolutely great. I loved him. He was an amazingly brilliant man. Of course, one of the great directors that's ever lived. And I think why he's so great is because he made masterpieces in pretty much every genre of movie. If you think about it, anti-war movies, you know, costume dramas, I mean, everything. He did the lot. There's two anti-war movies, if you count Strangelove and Paths of Glory, two very great films and very different.
It was really cool to have Malcolm McDowell a part of our best of episode. And really cool for my buddy over here to hook me up with that. A story I've never heard about Kubrick, which was really cool. I know that was his direction for it. And it was cool to have that little bit of, you know, spend a little time with Malcolm and have him in the deal. Usually you hear stories about like how when they did the Clockwork Orange, you know, they had a great friendship during it. And Malcolm thought, you know, hey, I got a lifelong friend here with Stanley, you know what I mean? You know, he's become my forever buddy, my forever pal. And then once the filming was over, Stanley was just off into other stuff. And, you know, he throws himself into his work. There's really no time. I think his best friend was really just his assistant, who kind of helped him make all the movies. So, you know, in a go lifestyle like that, you know, there's very few, you know, you don't really keep up, I think, you know. And we even find that on the underground, you know what I mean? You're making a movie with 50 to 100 people, and yeah, they're all good people and you're friendly with them and stuff. And it's like, it's hard to keep up with all those relationships, you know what I mean? You do what you can, you know, it's one of those deals where it's just whenever you see them, it's all good like it always was, you know what I mean? You might not be able to talk to them every day, every week, every month, or what, even every year, but you know, when you see those people, it's all love, you know what I mean, and appreciation. But it was really cool to get that story from Malcolm. I've never heard that one with him and Stanley. So definitely cool. We wanted to share that with you guys out there watching, you know what I mean? Because you're a part of our family as well. And we hope you enjoyed it. You know what I mean? You want to say anything in closing, Alex?
No, just that again, it was great to reach out to Malcolm and get a story like that. It's not quite as popular of things that he's talked about and given us a different look into Kubrick. But yeah, it's always fun when you find those little nuggets, and I was happy I was able to give that to my pal, the one and only Mathew Fisher.
Gracias, thank you, thank you. So with that being said, I thank you to the Alex Hauck, man. I also thank you to all the fans out there and all the followers, supporters, the family, you know what I mean? Much respect, man. We really thank you. The numbers have been really good, you know what I mean? And we get a lot of feedback from folks saying what they like, sometimes what they don't like, but that's just as good, you know what I mean? We're happy that you're here to listen because we're happy here to give you the product that is the BoomBastiCAST. I know the show means a lot to us as well as a lot of the folks we've talked to. And it's just kind of an honor and a privilege to be able to kind of do this in general, but to have people like it as well. You know what I mean? And we thank all the guests from the previous year, and all the years, and this year, and the coming years. Much love and respect for anybody giving our show attention in any way, whether you're a guest or a viewer, or my cohort over here sitting across from me doing the show. You know what I mean? It's always a pleasure. And 2024 ain't nothing different than 2024. And my feelings on that, we're rocking out 2025 now. We're coming to a close. You know, I hope everybody out there has a great Thanksgiving and a great Christmas and a great holiday. We'll catch y'all in the December episode. Like I said before, if anybody in Massachusetts is around, late November, I believe November 28th through the 30th, we're going to be appearing at Northeast Comic-Con in Boxborough, Massachusetts. We'll be out there just shedding the love, spreading it out there. All things boombastic, you know what I mean? I think that the folks from That Figures podcast will be out there joining us. So you'll have some That Figures and some BoomBastiCAST love roaming through. You see us, stop in, say hi. We always love hearing from folks. And again, man, just thanks for another great year. And we'll see you soon on the next episode of the BoomBastiCAST. Peace.